Question number 3 in the name of Deputy John.
Thank you, Count Corla. Minister, can you finally guarantee that 24/7 cardiac cover will be introduced at University Hospital Waterford in the lifetime of this current government, as promised since 2010? What infrastructure is currently lacking at UHW that prohibits the introduction of the full-time service? What plans has the department to increase the staffing complement of consultant interventional cardiologists from the current 3 to 6 to operate the 24/7 unit?
Thank you. Minister.
University Hospital Waterford's regional cardiology intervention suite opened in 2008 and serves a population of between 300,000 and 500,000 people. In 2012, the suite was identified as a designated primary PCI centre for the region under the National Clinical Programme for Acute Coronary Syndrome. Its services cover Waterford, Kilkenny, South Tipperary and Wexford. The centre currently has one cath lab which operates 5 days a week and incorporates a dedicated 6-bed cardiac day ward. Staff include 3 consultant interventional cardiologists based at Waterford and 2 visiting consultant cardiologists from Wexford and South Tipperary who work there 1 day a week. 24-hour emergency PCI cover requires as a minimum 2 cath labs on site. As for any complex acute hospital service, a key criterion for deciding whether a 24-hour PCI service should be provided is whether there is sufficient volume of appropriate activity to ensure safe provision of the service to patients. Without sufficient volume, the number of staff required to man a 27 roster will not be in a position to treat the number of patients needed to maintain their skills. A review of PCI services in Dublin is currently underway and will be completed shortly. On completion of that process, PCI capacity and requirements in areas outside of Dublin, including Waterford, will be examined. Any decision on further provision of PCI services in any region will have to be based on what's in the best interest of patients and based on evidence, the volume of clinical need, the quality and safety of the service which can be provided, the ability to staff it safely and the resources available.
Deputy Halligan.
Minister, I'm not at all happy with your answer. This government committed a 24/7. Your former minister committed it. The cath lab is open from Monday to Friday from 5:30 p.m. despite the fact that it's one of the busiest regional hospitals in the country. It closes on Friday. Minister, lives are being lost. I've recently been in contact with your office regarding one of these lives, Andrew Doherty, which you're aware of, who was admitted to the cardiac unit in Waterford last October for 10 days. During that time, he had 2 stents implanted and was transferred to the medical ward for surgery. He began to feel chest pains on Sunday afternoon, but no doctor was called and no consultant informed of the change in the condition. As it was the weekend, the cath lab was closed. The family were told not to worry, that he was having a panic attack. Mr. Doherty passed away that night. A junior doctor who I contacted told his wife that he did not know the man's history and could practically do nothing until the consultants returned on a Monday morning. Why are you talking about volume? We're talking here about people's lives. If it's one life can be saved over a weekend, you made a cast-iron guarantee to the people of Waterford. 15,000 people marched on the streets of Waterford 2 years ago. After that march, it was promised by the then Minister for Health that this 24-hour service. All I'm looking for you now is yes or no. Will this service be provided before the end of this term, or there'll be another 15,000 people out on the streets of Waterford shortly?
Minister.
Well, look, first of all, I don't know the details of the individual case you raise. I don't have access to patients' files, and I doubt you do either. And I think it inappropriate to raise such cases in the Dáil, such as that, unless you have full access and expert knowledge of the case involved. And I somehow don't know if that is the case. But I do know, and I do expect, and I may be incorrect in that, but at any given time, in University Hospital Waterford, there will at very least be a consultant physician on call, if not a consultant cardiologist on call. Why they were not called in any particular case, I obviously cannot say. One thing that will certainly cost lives, and I can absolutely guarantee you that, is any specialist service being set up that is not adequately staffed and doesn't have adequate throughput to assure quality and to assure that those providing the service are able to keep their skills. up to date. And we've seen that already with cancer services, and that's why they had to be centralised. In order to be viable, the 24/7 PCI service has to have a population of 500,000 to 1 million. And it also has to have at least 6 interventional cardiologists to be able to provide a 24/7 cover rota. I would think the most obvious first step in improving services in the South East and in Waterford is that the hours of the existing cath lab be extended, perhaps 8 to 8, covering Saturdays and Sundays. And it will be important to see whether the 3 cardiologists will be able to cover that rota, because we have had problems in other parts of the country of consultant cardiologists being unable to cover the rota, and that actually is a much greater patient safety risk.
Thank you.
Minister, very briefly, the cath lab is closed from 5:30 on a Friday until Monday, and your government already prepared a business plan of the 2015 estimates, and I quote, that said Waterford needs an additional 3 consultant interventional cardiologists to enable the Waterford cath lab to operate on a 24/7 basis. The hospital recently sought funding for one of these. The total revenue cost, this is what your government said, for the cath lab are 2.7 million. And we're now being told that the cost-benefit analysis must take place again. You've already done a business plan. Your former Minister for Health put a business plan in place, quite categorically told the people of Waterford, I met him out in the hospital, that the 24-hour service would be guaranteed to Waterford. You are now saying maybe, maybe not, you're not too sure, probably not.
Minister.
Well, look, it wouldn't be standard practice for the government to do business plans. Maybe it was done by the... Maybe it was done by the hospital group or the hospital itself or the HSC.
You supported it, your own minister. The former minister supported it. Sorry for do that. This is a very serious issue in Waterford.
Yeah, I could look at it. If I'll answer the question, if I'm not being interrupted, I'm not aware of governments doing business plans. Business plans for services are generally done by a hospital group. Or by the HSC, and as I say, to ensure that lives are being protected, it's important that any specialist service has adequate throughput, enough patients going through it, a sufficient volume of patients to assure quality, critical mass, and specialisation, and thirdly, that it be adequately staffed. And I would think the first step in Waterford would be to extend the hours of the existing cath lab, because any new cath lab will take time to build. And with 3 cardiologists there already, if they're capable of covering a 24/7 service with 6, surely they would be able to cover a 12-hour, 7-day-a-week service with the existing 3. But as you should know, if you don't know already, there is great difficulty getting cardiologists, hiring them in the first place, and secondly, them being able to cover the rota that people expect of them. And if they're not able to cover the rota, that's a much greater patient safety risk in my view. An unsafe service is not a good thing. What you want is a safe service, and it's better to travel to a safe service than to have an unsafe service close to you.
Question number